David keeps getting away from the danger, but it doesn't happen every day. Chazal say an expression, but loy b'chal yuma israchish nisa. Miracles don't happen every day. So yes, David, a miracle happened once, happened again, but who says next time?
You can't rely on miracles.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know if that's true with David, right? Because you can't rely on miracles means that when you don't know the miracles are happening to you the whole time. But if they are happening to you the whole time, and a prophet tells you you're going to be the next king, maybe you can. I don't know. Anyway, David doesn't want to do that, and Shaul could change his mind at any moment, and David decides that the only safe thing to do is to leave the country altogether, and there Shaul can't get him. Well, the only country, and this may be why he went there, because the only country which is sort of like being in Eretz Yisrael, even though at the time it was under non-Jewish control, was Palestine. Because technically Palestine is within the biblical borders of the land of Israel. But at the time of this story, the Jews hadn't conquered it yet. So it didn't have a Jewish presence there, so it didn't feel like you were living in Eretz Israel. So maybe that's why David came to this compromise and went there. Why he thinks he's going to be able to stay there when last time he had to run away, so he said because he had more men, and if it would start up with him, he would be able to cause a lot of damage. Also, being with all the women and children also showed that they weren't actually out to fight. So Aish, who's the king of Palestine, allows David to stay, and now David wants to convince Aish that he really is on his side, and he really can trust him. Aish can trust David. Well, how's he going to do that? So let's see. We're on page 81, I think. Chapter 27, Chav Zayin, Pasuk Dalet. Okay. But Yugad LeShaul, it was told to Shaul, I mean Shaul was informed, Ki Barach David, that David had fled. Livrach means to flee. Where he fled to? Gat. To Gat, which is in the land of Palestine. Today it's in the land of Israel, right? Which is called Kiryat Gat, which is close to where the Palestinians live. Well, in those days it was one of the Philistine towns, and that's where David fled to. V'lo Yosaf od levaksho. So he didn't continue. Yosaf is like Yosef. He didn't continue to look for him. There's no point. I'm going to look for you in the land of Israel. You're not there. And to go to the land of Palestine isn't safe for Shaul, so Shaul just left him alone. David said to Aish, if I have found favor in your eyes, which means if you like me, you trust me, then yitnu li, because he's asking for him a favor. That's how you say it. If I have found favor in your eyes, means I'd like you to do me the following favor. Yitnu li makom be'achat arei hasadeh. They should give me a place in one of the cities of the field. The cities of the field means a more rural town. Instead of being in the metropolis of Gat, which was one of the major cities of Gaza, he wants it's a village, right? It'd be something like a village, but more like a village town. That's what he wants. That's what's called Arei Hasadeh, the towns in the field. Why he wants to be there and not in the capital, we'll see. His excuse to Aish is because I'm a burden here. I'm in the middle of a town. The towns can be used. It makes other people here squashed. I'm sure there wasn't that much room in the first place, right? So therefore, towns are full. Usually, you have to build new buildings if you want to accommodate more people. Okay, so and there isn't room in town. Towns in those days were all walled cities, and therefore there's not really much room. So it's cramped. So it's inconvenient for me. It's also inconvenient for you. Yeah. This was what David said. I'm a burden on you, but if you just send me off, give me some village somewhere, village town, that'd be much more convenient for you. Yeah. They should give me makom, a place ba'achat, in one of Arei Hasadeh, the cities of the fields. Ve'esh vasham, and I will settle there. V'lama yeshev avdecha, why should your servant settle? Be'ir hamamlacha imach, in the royal city with you. Meaning, it's obviously inconvenient for you, and therefore I'd rather do that. It's okay. Aish has no reason to suspect of foul play. Why not? So he gave him a present. It doesn't just say you can go there. He actually gave it to him. The place called Tziklog, just the name of a place. It's a town. Tziklog.
Do we know where that is?
Let's have a look. Do we know where Ziklag is?
By Yom on this day.
We see on our biblical map. Means other printers of this map claim to know where it is. That's another question.
Yeah.
Yes, here.
Here?
Just over here. Ziklag. Over there. Just near the shin of Shimon.
Like here? Yeah, it is.
Okay, that's what they claim. All right?
See if it's
There's
near.
a river there, Nachal Betzor. It's in the south. So it's actually quite far in. It's interesting. Because this is where today you would see Pelishtim.
It's an archaeological site today.
Right? Where's Gat?
Really?
Look, see where Gat is over here. That's Gat. That's how far it is in from the coast. And we're going further, almost south of Gat. Okay? Good. So it's quite far into the land. It's just north of Beersheba. Was Beersheba under Jewish control? I have no idea. I always assumed it was. It says here Shimon. Okay? Okay, anyway, that's where he is.
Yeah,
Now, says as follows. Therefore, because this place was a personal gift from the Philistines to David, Lachain, Haisat Ziklag became Le Malchei Yehuda to the kings of Yehuda ad Hayom Hazeh till this day. Which means that eventually David controlled the whole area. Right? The whole of it, of the biblical borders of the land of Israel became controlled by Jews. But it didn't belong to the king. And the country doesn't belong to the king. The country belongs to the people.
Yeah.
The king represents them. But the king does have his own personal assets too. So the author of Shmuel is trying to explain to you why is it that Ziklag actually was privately owned by the kings of Yehuda. Because it had been given to them before they conquered it when David was king. It was given to David before he didn't conquer Ziklag as king of Israel. It was given to him by the Philistines.
It's still not.
And therefore it's private. The king can have his own private property. It belonged to him.
Over time, the state, the kingdom of Israel expanded. So all the new areas were all privately owned.
No, those which were those which were Philistine owned became Israel owned, right? And they became conquered by the kings of Yehuda on behalf of the Jewish people.
Right.
But Ziklag didn't have to be conquered; it was already David's,
Right.
right? So therefore, that's why that's why the author of Shmuel explained. Lachain, that's the reason why Ziklag is a city that is owned by the kings of Yehuda till this day. Till this day doesn't mean till today, right?
Really.
Right? There are no kings of Yehuda today,
Yeah.
right? It means till the day that the book was written, which was
Yeah. Not even when the book was written, when Tanach was. I thought they.
whatever you want it to mean, right? I don't know, right? At least till the book was written, but possibly till the Tanach was edited. I don't know,
Yeah.
right? I don't know, but something like that. 100, 200, 300, 400 years after the story happened, it still belonged to the kings of Yehuda as private property.
What was he?
Years later.
What?
Isa.
Haisha is from the word haya, to be,
To be.
but it's feminine.
It was
because a
written-
city is feminine.
I thought we said that David and Abigail wrote it.
David and Shmuel.
David and Shmuel. Okay, so then it could be years later. But yeah.
So that was shortly after it happened. So that's why it can't mean Adayom. It doesn't mean that David wrote it because there were no kings of Yehuda when David wrote it, right? Which is himself. So it must be later than that. So it must be until it was edited, which was in the time of whatever.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay. All right. That's the end of that section. Then what did David do? He moved, right? It was given to him Ziklag, and he moved. Now, why does David want to do this? We'll see in a second, right? He doesn't want to do it because it's cramped in Gat and he's an inconvenient. David doesn't care about that. David has a plan.
Away.
Let's see.
He doesn't want
Vayehi, and it was. Mispar Hayomim. Mispar means the number of days. Asher Yoshav David b'stei Philistim, that David lived or settled in the fields of the Philistines, which probably means in Ziklag, because that was right. That's called the fields as opposed to the town. Yamim v'arba chadashim. This is a very strange statement. Yamim means days
and 9 months.
and 4 months.
And 4 months.
Days and 4 months. That's how long the whole story that's about to take place in the next few chapters
So
of how long David lived in the Philistines was days and 4 months. What does that mean?
Yeah. Bit over 4 months.
So what does days mean?
More than 4 months.
How many days?
Days.
Days.
Less than 30. Less than 29.
So it means
And
Or
more
is
than
5 months.
well, whenever you use the plural, if you don't explain it, you mean the minimum, right? So what does days mean?
2.
2 days. So he said 2 days and 4 months. Okay, could be, right? It's a bit problematic because you would usually say it the other way around. You would say 4 months and 2 days,
yeah.
right? So a simple answer would be that sometimes the Torah says the word yamim, it means a year. Right? The word yamim can mean a year.
What's an example?
These examples, believe me, this guy. Yeah. Google it. You Google it. You'll see what I'm talking about. Yeah. It says when Eliezer goes to look for a wife. Okay, and
20 years.
Just a minute. Be patient. He goes to look for a wife in Parashas Chayei Sarah, and then he says, they say, yeah, you can take her. We agree, you can take Rivka as a wife. And in the morning, they say, well, maybe let her stay, because they didn't realize that Eliezer wanted to go straight away. Mm-hmm. They thought we'd just come to propose, and eventually, after a while, right? Mm-hmm. They said, let her stay here for a while, and then go. And he says, no, I've already been successful. Don't make me take over time. Let's ask the girl. They asked the girl. She says, no, I want to go now. Okay? Mm-hmm. So he said this. Here. And her brother and her mother said, speaking to Eliezer, let the girl stay with her, Yamim or Asor. Yamim means days, or 10. It doesn't say 10 what. So, whatever it means, Rashi says it makes no sense. Yeah. Because you never ask for the harder one second. So if Yamim means 2 days, then 10 has got to be longer than 2 days. 10 days. So you wouldn't say like that. She should stay with us for 2 days, or maybe 10 days. She should say the other way around. 10 days, or if not, 10 days, at least 2 days. So Rashi says the word Yamim means a year. Let the maiden remain with us a year or 10 months. That's how it's translated. Yeah. Doesn't say months. Oh, it could mean 10 days, but probably that's mean once you're talking about a year, then 10 probably means 10 months. Okay? So this is an example where Yamim means a year. So now if you read it like that, it would make more sense that he was there for Yamim, which means a year, and 4 months. The problem with reading like that, although it would read much better, is that at the beginning of the story of Shaul, it says he was only king for a year. The whole of the reign of Shaul was only 1 year. Now I know it's hard to believe because it's almost taken us that length of time to read it. Right? But there is no proof from the story how long these stories happened. We just don't know. So if the text itself says the whole of the reign was only 1 year, then David couldn't have been in Palestine for a year and 4 months, because you'll see. So that's why Rashi says, no, it doesn't mean it means 4 months and 2 days. And the reason why it's written like this is because the first 2 days relate to the time that he was in Gat. He was first in Gat for a few days, and then he says to the king, this is a bit inconvenient being over here, and therefore let's move somewhere else. And he went to the other place for 4 months. That's the way to read it. Read like that, it's okay, but it doesn't read so well either, but that's one way. Okay. What did they do when they got to the fields? They went to raid. This is what they did, and that's why they moved out of the main town, because you can hardly raid when you're raiding from... the king sees you every day go out, right? And say, oh, where are you going? Oh, we're just going to the Makolet, No, why are you all fully armed? Oh, we didn't want to leave my home, right? We're going to make him a story, right? So David's going on raid from this village that he's taken over, and no one has to know what he's doing. Let's see. You don't forget, David's technically, in a sense, the king of Israel, okay? And he wants to help Jewish interests. So you don't have to be in the land of Israel to do that. You can do that from Palestine as well. Vayal David v'Anosh, him, his men, meaning the women stayed behind in Ziklag, right? But the men went up, Vayifshetu, that means they spread out. El HaGeshuri, to the area of Geshuri. I don't know where that is, I don't think I can find it on the map here. There is a place called Geshuri, but that's up north and it doesn't mean that. Gizri, that's another plain down here. Amaleki, the area of Amalek, which we know where that is in the south. All these are areas which are border between the land of Israel and the land of Palestine. There are other nations around there who are Jewish enemies, and if Shaul's not fighting them, then David went to fight them. So he's using his Pelishti base in Ziklag as a place to fight against the enemies of Shaul on behalf of the Jewish people. And who are they? They are these non-Jewish pagans who live in the land of Israel who should be driven out of any. Really, Yeshua should have driven them out. But Yeshua didn't do it, so David did it. But David's starting his job as king, which will be his job. Okay, so that's what he's doing. He's doing this as an opportunity, keep himself busy. Okay? All right, so who's he doing? Against Gishur, Gizri, Ki Heina, Yoshvois Haaretz. They are the Heina, these people, the Gishuri, the Gizri Amaleki, right? They're not actually names of areas, they're names of peoples, right? Yerushalmi is a person who lives in Yerushalayim. So Gishuri are the guys who live in Gishur. Gizri, the guys who live in Gezer. Amaleki, the guys who live in Amalek. Now, if they're really Amalekim or not, I have my doubts. Because we learned a story that Shaul was commanded to wipe out Amalek.
That was less than a year.
Exactly. He was commanded to wipe out Amalek. And it seems from this story that he was successful, and the only person he left alive was Agag, the king of Amalek. And even he was killed by Shmuel. Okay? So if all the Amalekim are dead, there's just one pregnant maidservant who Agag managed to impregnate in the night, and from him comes Haman, and all the Amalekim then in a year is not going to make the Amalekim, right? In 10 years, in 20 years, there isn't a new people called Amalek. There's a few kids running around, that's all there is. Eventually, hundreds of years later, the times of the Purim story, which was, 600 years after this story. No. 450 years after this story, they could develop a people, right? That's not a problem. Okay, so it might mean people who live in Amalek. You could be Yerushalmi. Yeah, I'm a Yerushalmi, but I'm actually born in Manchester, so I'm still call myself a Yerushalmi. So you could call yourself Amalek, even you're not genetically Amalekite. Just like you call yourself an Indian, even though you're British, you just happen to live in India. Get it?
Nowadays, when we talk about Amalek, we don't talk about the actual people who live in Amalek. We talk about the idea of Amalek.
Depends who the week. But no. I don't know where you got the idea from. You're saying it, that it's like a standard Jewish philosophy.
I've heard that from.
You've heard an idea.
Some of whom are in this.
I'm not saying some have expressed this idea.
Could that also be?
But does that mean there's a mitzvah to wipe out people who have the Amalek concept?
For sure not.
No, he's saying no. So what did you mean? What context did you hear this idea? Some people say it is. Yes, Rabbi Soloveitchik claims
that you should.
That the mitzvah to wipe out Amalek, I can say you should practically, the mitzvah to wipe out Amalek isn't limited to people who genetically Amalek.
It's people that,
that believe in Amalek's philosophy. That's his idea. I tell you where he got the idea from. I know where he got the idea from, but I tell you where he supported the idea. Because the Rambam brings down the mitzvah to wipe out all sorts of different peoples that the Torah says, like the Canaanites, right? And there's sort of rules about Midianites and Moabites not to wipe out, but all sorts of rules. And in all of them, the Rambam says, and these rules don't apply nowadays because we don't know who these people are.
Yeah.
Right? We don't know who the ancient Egyptians were or the Moabites, so we don't know any of them, right? Because Sancheriv, who was the emperor of the Assyrian Empire, his policy was to transport people from one nation to another, and then they resettled and they've all been lost. So no one knows of their real ancestry. And that's what the Rambam says, that we don't worry about any of these concerns anymore. But when it comes to the mitzvah wiping out Amalek, he doesn't add that clause.
Okay.
He doesn't say, and that doesn't apply nowadays. No, it doesn't say that. So Rabbi Soloveitchik suggests, why didn't he write that? Because maybe the law doesn't apply solely to Amalek, genetic Amaleks. It applies to anyone who has the same philosophy.
Yeah.
Yes, well, let's say.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it could be these people like that as well, but I find that hard to believe.
Yeah.
It means people who lived in the area of Amalek, because look, if all Amalek was wiped out, then somebody would have resettled there, right? So they call themselves Amalek. Could be. I have my doubts about that as well, but it's a possibility. Maybe Shaul thought he wiped out all the Amalekites, or he might have wiped out all the Amalekites in one area, not the others, but then it wouldn't be hard to explain. Yeah, okay, I don't know. You still have to explain where Haman came from, because he came from Agag. It says clearly Haman came from Agag, and Agag was killed. So you'd have to make up this story about him being able to make that woman pregnant in the night, even if there were other men, the cow, whatever it was, sheep.
Yeah.
It was a cuddly sheep, no? I don't know. Okay, all right. Let's continue the story. Anyway, so this is the area of Amalek. Then it's Kiheina, because these peoples, the Gishur, Gizri, Amaleki, Yoshvois Haaretz are the inhabitants of the land, Asher Me Olam, meaning for always, from ancient times. They're not people who've moved in like the Philistines. Interesting. It means they as opposed to Philistines. Philistines were not the 7 nations. They were not Canaanite nations. When you talk about the different list of nations, Philistines were invaders, Phoenician invaders who had conquered the coast of Israel. But these people, they were ancient Canaanites.
Where do they come from?
Who?
The Philistines.
Phoenicians.
Jeez.
Which is some seafaring nation around the Mediterranean.
Greeks?
Some live in Greece, some live in
Italy?
in Carthage. Carthage is in North Africa, others live in Lebanon. They conquered all those areas. One of the areas they conquered is this area. But they weren't actually technically to be wiped out. They weren't one of the 7 nations, Philistines. But these people were. Because these people, Asher Me'olam, had always been inhabitants of the land of Canaan, so they were part of the 7 Canaanite nations. They may have had a subtitle because they lived in an area called Geshur. Okay? All right. Bo'acha Shura, in the direction means coming. Bo'acha, as you come to a place called Shur. Shura, the hay is towards Shur. So they lived in this area in the direction of Shur. V'ad Eretz Mitzrayim, all the way to the land of Egypt. So that area in the south of the land of Israel was inhabited by these Canaanite peoples of these different tribes. And David went and attacked them. V'hika David es haaretz, and David struck the land, means the inhabitants, not the land itself. V'lo yechayeh ish v'isha, he didn't let live. Yechayeh, chay is life. So yechayeh is to allow to live, doesn't mean to resuscitate.
Yeah.
No. He didn't let live neither man or woman. Why? Well, the simple reason is because they were Canaanite nations. That's what God's commandment was, to destroy these nations. So David just did fulfill that commandment that Yeshua should have done. And when we look, if you read the book of Yeshua, it says clearly there were lots of the 7 nations that were left and were never destroyed. And eventually David saw it was his responsibility. So he's starting this job. Okay? The Lakach, but he did take Tzayin Ubakar, the sheep and the cattle, because there's no restriction. When you wipe out Amalek, the instruction was to wipe out the animals, but like I said, these aren't real Amalekim, they're just guys who resettled the land of Amalek. So their cattle is okay to take. So Lakach Tzayin Ubakar, he took the sheep and the cattle, the Chamorim and the donkeys, Ugamalim and the camels, very good. Ubegodim, and their clothes, Yashav, and he returned. Yavai el Achish, and he came to Achish. Means he paid Achish a visit every so often. He didn't live in Gat, but every so often, every Sunday they had lunch together, whatever. I don't know what they met every so often. Okay.
You think you would bring it up? You'd be like, so you know what's happened to this town?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, one thing. And Achish would say to him in the Al Peshatetem Hayoim. That means, where did you attack today?
What?
Yeah, these are Achish's enemies too. Achish is fine, David, it's great, no problem. Right?
They're out.
No, let's see. No, David doesn't say that. Let's see. I'm not sure. It's a little bit confusing. Let's see David's answer. Where did you go today? He knows David's a warrior, David's going out fighting, comes back armed. Where have you been today?
Wait, Peshat is attack or?
Peshat means, I'm not sure. It usually means to strip something.
Like a raid. Oh, it means like a raid in army.
Yeah?
Shita.
Yeah, but the question, where does it come? What, in the context, it means that.
So
right?
it means attack.
My question is,
Right.
what is the root? Right? Is it just that's what it means? Pashat usually means to strip.
Yeah.
Right? So maybe it means when you strip somebody of all his,
Life.
of his goods, you would use the word pashat. In the context, it clearly means to attack. Right? It's clear that, right?
Yeah.
That's what it means. Okay, to raid, yeah. So, al peshatetem hayom. I don't know what the al, that's with an ayin means upon. With an aleph, it doesn't mean anything. Right?
Design.
Al could mean not, right? But it doesn't mean that here either. Here it means where. In the context, it's clear. He's asking where. Where did you attack today? So I would say Ephod, Heichan. But he says Al. But that's what it means. But David, right? And David answered. What? You have an answer? Al Peshatetem.
They spoke Hebrew.
No. You want to write
Just
it in
translating.
Yeah, I suppose so. I don't know what language they spoke in. I don't think David spoke Philistine. But maybe you learned it in school. I don't know. We learned French in school. You have to speak to your enemies. You have to learn Arabic so you can speak to your Arabs, right? So they learned. You learn Russian. Whatever. Somehow or other they had a translator. Whatever you want to guess. Okay. David said, "Oh, I went today. Al Negev Yehuda. I went to the south of Yehuda. Al Negev Yerach Me'eli. I went to the south of Yerach Me'eli. Negev is the south of Canaan. Now, all those are meant to imply that he was attacking the Jews. So it's clear Achish knows that David's fighting. Now, David wants Achish to think that he can trust him, and he's joined his side, and he's an enemy of the Jews. That's because then he'll let him stay. Right? Achish is the king of Gath, the Philistine king. David wants to get his trust. He wants to get his unadulterated trust of the king. So he has to make out as if he's doing that. Now, does the king know that he's getting into other places as well? That it doesn't say.
As well.
No. David is claiming that he's attacking Yehuda. Right? There's no way Achish can know whether that's true or not, because he's not going to get reports from Yehuda. Not going to, get reports from there. So he doesn't know. It could be true. Right? The places that he's more likely to know about are the places David actually did attack, which is Amalek, Geshur, where he killed all the inhabitants. Right? So what I don't know is, it doesn't say. Let's be patient. We'll see. It doesn't say clearly yet that Achish knew about that, or didn't know about it, or that David was trying to make a complete cover-up. He said, "Where have you been?" So he wants to lie, so he shouldn't know he's attacking all these people. But let's be patient, right? At the moment, all David says is certainly not true what David's saying. Yeah. But the question is he saying, "I'm doing this in addition to attacking these other places that you heard about?" Or is he saying, "No, we keep ourselves busy by fighting. We didn't fight anyone else besides the Jews." That's what it sounds like. And the Achish somehow or other didn't find about those places, right? His answer was the south of Yehuda, the south of Yerach Me'eli, the south of Canaan. Okay. V'ish v'isha lo yechayeh David. And a man and a woman David didn't let live. Mm-hmm. Of the places that he did really attack. Mm-hmm. We said that beforehand. But beforehand it sounded like he did it because they were Canaanites. Now it looks like he's given another reason why he didn't let any of them live. Lahavi, Gath, that they would bring to Gath, Lamar, to say what was really happening. So it looks like David is managing to hide the whole thing. If you wipe out a whole town, there's no one to report on you. And he had no reason to think David was lying. David, honestly, swears to God that this is what he's doing. And how do you keep yourself busy? What do you play Sudoku all day? No, we're out fighting those cursed Jews, those Jews over there. We're getting them. Because now it makes sense that David should hate the Jews, because David has had to run away from Shaul. So you can see them as the enemy. Right? Clearly, David loved all his fellow Jews and wouldn't harm a Jew, right? Never. But Achish doesn't know that, and that way David is getting Achish's trust. Look, this lie will eventually be revealed, but in any case, it was only there for 4 months. It's not like a big deal of how long before Achish is. And I don't know. I don't know what David's long-term plan was. But it didn't need to be long-term, because he stayed there 4 months. But it could have needed to be. I didn't know that. As I said, I don't know what his long-term was. But in the end, it works out fine. Okay.
Also means that we're 8 months into Shaul's rule.
Correct. It's only a year. Okay, so David, but it seems a bit of a contradiction of why he didn't let anybody live. I mean, it's not really a contradiction, because we didn't say clearly why he didn't let them live before, and I just added that in. They were ancient inhabitants of the land. So I said, well, that makes them Canaanites, which makes it reasonable, David, to kill the men and women, right? That's what we said at the time. But it looks like you don't really need to say that, although there is a good explanation. Here it says why he didn't want God to kill and let them live, because he just wanted to report on him. Pen yagidu aleinu, lest they talk about us. It's like speaking in the first person. Lamar, to say, what will the report be? Koasa David. This is what David did. Like this David did. But mishpato, and this is his judgment, means this is his regular practice. Once he attacked the Amalekim, it was all the time he's doing this, and he's just making up this story about attacking the Jews. All the days. Asher Yashav b'stei Pelishtim. Sorry. Lemo ko asa David, pause. Kol mishpato, and this is what, now the author is writing, this is what David did, kol hayamim, all the time, all the days, which was 4 months and 2 days, asher yashav, that he settled b'stei Pelishtim. This was his regular thing. You go out on a raid against some local guy, destroy the whole place, and then no one could pass a report back to Aish. And then when Aish got him into conversation, he would say that he was actually attacking the Jews in the land of Israel. And you see, he was successful. Vaya'amen Aish b'David, and Aish trusted. Imun means to give your trust, faith in someone. So Aish now trusted David. Lamar saying, what was the logic? How could you trust that this Jew would suddenly become a Jew hater? This is not Bernie Sanders, right? Well, this is David HaMelech. So why should he hate the Jews, right? Good.
Aman,
You're going to cut that out as well? As you got to cut that out. Lamar, have Aish, hiv ish be'amo. Now, the word boash, right, is this stuff that they use, well, it's become illegal now, but they used to use against Haredi demonstrators here, right? It was called skunk spray.
Tear gas?
Right? No, not tear gas, skunk spray.
Smells bad?
It smells really bad. It ruins your clothes, makes you sleep. Yeah. Right? Anyway, I think they made it illegal. Although that won't stop them. Okay, but Ish is terrible. It means he smelled disgusting. It means David has become disgusted with the Jewish people. That's why he joined our side. And why? Because they pursued him, they chase him wherever he goes, they're trying to catch him and kill him. So obviously he's become a Jew hater, and that's why it made sense in Achish's mind. Completely misunderstanding the story, but from his perspective, this is how he understood what was going on. So now he trusts that David's on his side, and that will help us understand the next chapter. Vayamin Aish with David, and Aish put his trust, his emunah, his faith in David. Lamar explaining, have Aish hiv ish be'amo b'Yisrael. He has become disgustedly considering them repugnant, and that's the word, right? With his people, even though they're his people, against the Israelites. He will be for me as an eternal servant. Servant not in the sense of cutting sugar in the sugar game, means he will be faithful to me forever. I don't have to worry about him changing sides.
Didn't the Pelishtim know that he was anointed as king?
Yeah, but so what? Still got to info. I mean, maybe they did.
Yeah, well, that's why they were.
That's why they originally wanted to kill him. Yeah, but now so he'll become king after Shaul's killed. But at the moment, Shaul's the enemy.
So he's going to kill other people. Like, why would they believe this?
No, because anyone who joins Shaul, there'll be people there who'll be faithful to David. All those guys got it in for those who were against him, and David worked out who's on Shaul's side, and those are the ones he's attacking. That's how Shaul's explained. Okay, chapter 28, Perek Chavches. Around that time, in that period, in those days, Vayikpetzu Pelishtim es Machaneh, and the Philistines gathered together, kibbutz, as in a commune, es Machaneh, their camps. So there were different camps, because the Philistine was 5 major cities: Ashkelon, Azar, Gat, Ekron, and another one. I can't remember. There's 5 of them. All right, and each one had its own legions, and they all got together to go and fight. They go all their camps, individual camps, together, lehilachem, to do war, Yisrael against Yisrael, against the Jews. So we're going to have a big battle between the Philistines and the Jews. And what side is David going to be on? So David is in trouble now, because he's showing all these months that he's faithful to Aish. He's fabricated this whole story that he fights against the Jews in the south. And now, I was okay, Aish, come and join my war and go and fight the Jews. What's going to do now? Okay, that's the dilemma that David's facing. Aish said to David, I know for sure that you'll come out with me in the camp. You and your man, I know for sure you'll join my side, right? Sure. Sure you're going to join me. What?
That's what you've been doing all the time.
Right, sure, I have no problems. Tetzeh, you will go out.
I go in the camp.
Ba'machane, in the camp.
Yeah.
So I think we should read it simple before we start reading the Malbim's nuanced way of reading this text. Simple, he says, you're going to come out and fight. It becomes problems, which is what the Malbim always does, right? If you just read it, you can get stuck somewhere and you're going to get into a brick wall. You're just not going to be able to understand the conversation. But let's translate it first. David said, Lachein, therefore, Ata Teda, you should know that which your servant will do. Now that's a funny, doesn't really make much sense. I mean, David should say either yes or no, or try and get out of it. Yeah? Therefore, Ata, you should know that which your servant will know. It's sort of not answer. It's not a conversation. That's just a weird statement. Okay. David said, "Lochein, therefore, shomer leroshi, a guard of my head, which is called like a bodyguard. Shomer leroshi. I mean, it's funny, interesting. In English, you say bodyguard. In Hebrew, you say a head guard, right? But it's the same idea. Asimcha, I will make you, I will place you, kol hayomim, all the days." That is the end of the conversation between David and Aish. Very, very, what's the word? Cryptic. Exactly what I wanted. The right word. It's very cryptic. The original statement of Aish seems very strange. It's very straightforward. But David's reaction and Aish's reaction to David's reaction both don't make much sense. Okay? So this is where the Malbim comes along. The Malbim says you have to read the text nuancedly and you'll see there's a whole different thing going on in this conversation. Aish knows that he can't really trust David. Or even if Aish trusts him, this is not just Aish going out to fight. It's the whole Philistine army. And maybe David has earned Aish's trust, but what other kings or generals of the Philistine army are going to say? He's the king of Gath, but there's a king of Ekron, there's a king of of each one. So he said, clearly you will go out with me. Not you'll come out to fight. No. I can't trust you to fight because, I don't know whether I can't trust you. If I trust you, what about the others? Okay? But on the other hand, I know that you're faithful to me. So what I want you to do, to come out with me, right? To just be like a bodyguard. That's exactly what I want, right? So what he says at the end is what he meant all along. But he didn't say it so clearly originally, but he did hint to it because he said, Yodah teida ki iti teitze. Doesn't say you will go out to war. Iti, with me. With me. Don't have to go and fight, you'll be with me. You and your men. Now, David isn't stupid. He knows what Aish is trying to say, but he wants to play dumb because he wants to earn Aish's trust even more. Right? So what did he say? He said, oh yeah, therefore, since you want us to go out, you'll know you'll know what we'll do. Meaning, if you're a bodyguard, you don't do anything. You just stand there, make sure no one does anything else, right? No, we're going to go out and fight there, and we'll be with you. That's what you meant. We'll be right by you, and you'll be able to see when we're fighting. Because David wants to give Aish the impression that he thinks that Aish means that he's actually going to go out and fight. He knows what Aish is. He knows Aish's political dilemma, right? He knows Aish is going to have to get out of this somehow, but he wants to play along and see what Aish said. Aish then says, no, that's not what I meant. I meant bodyguard, right? But the Malbim adds on, he didn't want to insult David. You see, originally he said it in a way that wasn't so explicit. But now he's got to say, my bodyguard, why you don't trust me to fight, right? So therefore what he says is to give him a pitsui. Pitsui is a compensation. He says, not just my bodyguard now, I'll make it your permanent job. So at this point he adds in, not only will you go out to be my bodyguard in the war, and when we come back from the war, that'll be your job. So, and David, that's what shows I really improve you. This is the way politicians talk. They talk in half things and they have to change, and this is what I meant, this is not what I said. You can't actually nail me on that, I didn't actually say it so clearly, right? But so David knows that. God wants to get him in the corner so he should actually come out with exactly what do you mean? This is what, okay, fine. And then David has got the point that he's really showed that he would have gone out to fight. Because he said, we'll go and fight together. Okay? Okay, let's continue. Shmuel, now this is fascinating. Shmuel Mace. Shmuel died. Now we know that. He didn't die now, did he? It doesn't even say Vayama Shmuel. What's the difference between Shmuel Mace and Vayama Shmuel? Come, you've got to tell me, you've got to get it this time. Vayama Shmuel and Shmuel died. Shmuel Mace and Shmuel died. What's the difference? No, almost. No.
What did you say?
What's the difference? He said will die. No, you can't will die. No. Everybody will die eventually.
Yeah.
Right? And also, they're both the past.
If he's injured.
No, Shmuel died. No, he's been buried, he's been eulogized. He's not the Rebbe, right? He's really dead. Right? Okay, so what does it mean?
Did they
What
make
is-
a eulogy?
That's a good question.
Yeah. Who? The Rebbe?
For the longest forever.
No. Look, if a guy goes away from, you also have to eulogize. He's not around. He's really dead.
Well, maybe it's a year after.
Did they bury him?
Is it? You know,
Well,
how
I
this-
mean,
Whatever.
is it like a year after he's died? Yeah, because like.
No. If you read the text carefully, you've got to get this in your head. There's two ways in Hebrew to say the past tense.
yeah, he was.
Yeah. There's two ways to say the past tense in Hebrew. One is to write the past tense, and one is to write the future, and then put a vav hipuch. What's a vav hipuch? Vayomer. What does vayomer mean?
And he said,
And what does yomer mean?
And he
He
said.
said.
He will say.
he will say.
Yomer said. He said is amar. Amar in modern Hebrew you say who amar. You don't need the who, right? Okay. In classical Hebrew you need the who to say it means he said. Amar means he said. Shamar he guarded. Achal he ate. How do you say he will guard? Yishmar. If you want to say he guarded, you can also say vayishmar. Vayishmar doesn't mean and he will guard. No. Vayomer. Vayomer yedaber Hashem. Yedaber he will speak.
It's also Shmuel.
Just a minute.
Yeah.
Yedaber, he will speak.
Oh.
Vayedaber, and he spoke. The vav changes the future of the past. And we always said, why are there two ways in Hebrew to say the same thing? Why do you have two ways to say the past tense? So what's our answer? What's the difference?
Doesn't
One is
mean-
called past, one is called the pluperfect, which means the absolute past. It means there's two ways of past. One is it's already happened in the storyline. One is in the story it was the next thing. So if you say Vayama Shmuel means the next thing that happened in the story was Shmuel died. If you say Shmuel Mace, it means he had already died. So the author gives away, he's not telling you Shmuel died now. Besides the fact that we know, right? I didn't even write he died now. I wrote he did die. But he still doesn't answer the question. It just clearly it's not trying to say that. And let's look, where did Shmuel die? Here, in chapter 25, Vayama Shmuel, and Shmuel died. And then it says, Vayikbatzu Kol Yisrael, and all the people gathered together, Vayisbadu Lai, and they mourned him, Vayikbaru Bebeisa, and they buried him in his house, the Ramah, which is exactly the same what it says over here, right? It's almost,
Not Bebe, so yeah.
yeah, that's also interesting. It's almost cut and paste. Shmuel had died, Vayisbadu Kol Yisrael, right? Here it says, Vayikbatzu, they got together. Here it says they mourned him, Vayikbaru, and they buried him. The Beisai, here it says Barama, it's the Beisai Barama. Obviously, all these nuances are important, but I don't know what they are.
Yeah.
Ubeiroi, in Rama and in Isitim. Okay. Now, what's it to do with anything? Like, why do we need to know this? So the answer is this is an introduction to the next story. The next story is that Shaul is going to fight the Philistines in this battle. And Shaul is scared. Right? He doesn't feel God's help. Don't forget God's amazing supernatural spirit that Shaul had at the beginning of his reign had lost that. Okay? So he doesn't feel the spirit to go out and fight. On the other hand, he's got this army fight. He's got out to fight. He's scared. So what do you do when you're scared? You ask God, is this the right thing to do? Will I be successful? And that gives you encouragement. Right? So what would be the first person he would normally turn to? Shmuel. But Shmuel is dead and buried, and therefore he can't do that anymore. So that's why it started. Since Shmuel had already died, he wasn't able to take that route. There are other routes. What's the other routes? Other ways of knowing. Well, if they were going to be like God, okay, could be. So it could be saying Shmuel was dead, and he asked God, God HaNavi, not God the, right? God the prophet, and he didn't give an answer. The other ways you can ask. What other ways to find out God? Or in Vitumi, you can do that as well. The breastplate, right? So the truth is, it says later on in the story, he tried all the methods, all the standard methods. Good question, absolute great question, right? It's not what it says in the text, right? Yeah. Moshe's question is, he couldn't ask Urim Vitumi because David had it. right? Remember that Kohen who fled with David and David had it,
Oh.
right? Okay, it's a brilliant question, right? It took me years learning Shmuel before I asked that question, right? But I did eventually ask it, and there are. Anyway, we'll talk about it when we get there. It says later on in the story. It says later on in the story that Shaul tried all the standard methods to find out God's plan for him, what was going on. Shmuel was dead. The other prophets didn't answer. He asked the Urim and Thummim, he didn't answer. And there's other ways called a dream. How do you ask in a dream? So it's called a she'elas chaloim, right? It seems to be a standard. When I say standard, it doesn't mean I know anyone who's done it,
lucid
right?
dream?
But it is no. That's great. God sends dreams, but to ask a question in a dream, how do you do that? Okay, so there was a book written. It seems to me this was standard amongst Kabbalists. Great rabbis could do this, right? What they would do, right? You would ask a question, you would write it down on a piece of paper, you'd leave it under your pillow, and then in the morning the answer would be there.
What? How have I only heard about this now?
What?
How have I only heard about this now?
Oh, I did this once to my kids, and my kids asked me questions. I don't know the answer. Do a Shiras Chalaim. Okay, so they
Didn't answer.
No, they did. I wrote the answer.
It's like the Jewish version of the
Wait.
There's actually a book written, was written about 700 years ago, called Teshuvos Min HaShamayim. It was a rabbi, his name was Yaakov Corville, which is a town in France. And whenever he got to something he couldn't work out the answer, obviously you have to use your brains first, and you'd learn up the whole sugi, and he just couldn't conclude. It's Machlokes Rashi and Tosfos, right? Which tefillin to wear, right? So we don't know what you do. Rashi says one way, Rabbi Tam says the other way. What do you do? You're going to decide between Rashi and Tam. You know what to do. So whenever he got a situation like that, he would do a Shiras Chalaim, and he collected all the answers that he got from this. So he didn't He didn't ask the question in a dream, right? It wasn't answered in the dream, but it was through the night.
Wait, so it appears on the paper, or you have the dream?
No, I think it appears on that. I think you see their answer written.
Oh, I think the dream. Sure,
Yeah.
it happens in the dream.
Okay, maybe that was the dream. Anyway, so it says that Shaul tried all these methods, and they're all accepted halachic methods. It's not sorcery. That's Beseda. It didn't work.
And
So
that,
now Shaul is pressured into find some illegal way, subterfuge to find out God's plan. There are ways to find out which are halachically forbidden.
Oh, like asking.
That's
the
it.
sticks and the bones.
That's it. So that's the next story. So that's why this whole chapter, which is about that Shaul's attempt to find out through other methods, it starts off with the fact that Shmuel has died and been eulogized and buried, so there's no way to find out.
It's just like
Shmuel.
previously on.
it's like the intro to the episode.
Yeah, just keep.
But I have to tell you that, otherwise you may forget that. Unless you open the book here. Okay, so that's the point. Then you have to know, why does it say all this nuanced difference before it says this and it says but basic? That I don't know the answer to, but that's the basic message. Okay? But it continues.
Is it
What?
even necessary? Like we already know
Know what?
that Shmuel's died.
Yes, but
It's reminding
No,
you.
it's reminding you to
Okay.
explain why he needed to come to the other point. Since Shmuel has previously died, as you all know, that's possible. But I want to explain to you, if Shmuel had been alive, he wouldn't be pressured to do this. Because Shmuel's died. They wouldn't have known that. They said, no, Shaul was in Russia, and Shmuel would have done this even if Shmuel was alive. No, I want you to know that it doesn't justify it, but it makes it a little bit better. Because he didn't have his usual methods, right? And it says, and it continues, V'Shaul Hasis, Shaul, again, it doesn't say by Yosar Shaul. Shaul had removed in the past,
Wait.
at the beginning, Hasis.
Wait.
You said the whole thing.
No, we just got to.
Shmuel had died.
And then-
Vayisbedula Kol Yisrael, and all Israel had eulogized it. Vayikberuhu, and they had buried him, Barama, in Ramah, or Be'iroi, which was in his town. You can't bury a person in two places, unless you bodies in two halves. Ramah is his town, so that's what it means, but I don't know why it doesn't say that. But they buried him in Ramah, which is his town. V'Shaul, and Shaul, Hasir had removed Ha'ovot ve'et hayidonim meharetz. Those are the two standard methods of seance. Seance is when you speak to the spirits in the spirit world, and you ask them for secrets that are going on, and okay. So apparently these things are real and they work, but it's forbidden to do.
What are they?
Right.
Avot and.
Avot, there's two different methods. One is use a bone of a certain bird and you put it in your mouth, and then you do also Ouija things and it speaks. Another one is you take the skull and you put it under your arm, or you get the spirit to speak from underneath your arm. A bit like you get this guy who works with a headless guy from Harry Potter, right?
Oh, nearly had his nose.
Yeah, so he always got the head underneath his arm, right?
It's definitely ventriloquist tricks back
Right.
there.
Okay. So yes, that's the question. Are these just tricks? They claim Houdini. You heard of Houdini?
Yeah.
So Houdini claimed before he died suddenly from an accident, right? But in towards
Oh, drowned.
Yeah,
No.
during a magic
he
trick.
was
Drowned trying
he was punched in the stomach when he wasn't ready for it.
That's also, I think, true as well.
That means he could be punched very hard, but you had to like tense your muscles first. Someone came and thumped him when he wasn't ready. No, and that's what my son told me. I don't know.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think I remember that.
Yeah. Anyway, the point is that towards the end of his life, towards the end of his life, he wanted to debunk all this Ouija board stuff.
Yeah.
Right. So he went to a séance. He used to go into these things, and he got them to bring back the spirit of his mother. And then you all heard his mother speaking, right? No, Houdini.
Oh, okay.
Right? and whatever they ask the questions, you get our conversation, whatever. Okay. So then he said, "But where did my mother learn to speak English?" Right? He knew, very few people knew that Houdini was Jewish, and his mother only spoke Yiddish at home. She didn't speak English.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Right? So now the guys doing the seance also didn't know this, right? And therefore they just thought she's speaking. You put a nice Brooklyn accent, and it'll be Houdini's mother, right? So now maybe they do speak in English in heaven. I don't know how these things work, but this was his claim that proved it was nonsense, and it was just the guy speaking. Whatever, but that doesn't prove it's all nonsense. It just proves that guy was a fake, right? Doesn't mean the thing can't be done. If the Torah forbids it and gives you the death sentence for doing it,
You have to be able to do it.
it would indicate that it's real. And anyway, this story certainly means that Shaul believed it was real. Oh, I haven't to get a story. Anyway, Shaul went on a witch hunt, as they say, right, to get rid of these things. And Shaul spent a good part of his reign with the efforts and money to eradicate this from the land of Israel, which is a great mitzvah, right? But now Shaul's done that, so when Shaul needs it, he's got no one to turn to, right? Because he himself got rid of it all. That's what it says. Shaul had removed all these different types of seance abilities. One's called Avot, one's called Yidonim, right? And so therefore Shaul's going to have to find,
An alternative.
or on the black market, maybe you can still find one of these guys. You know, that's what Shaul's going to do. Okay, but that we may wait for next.